Hi everyone, and welcome to a Tech Talk video from Erik's Electronics Workbench. So if you've heard the term dual rail power supply and have been wondering what that means, or maybe you've noticed on a schematic where there's a positive power supply rail, a negative power supply rail, and also a circuit common, and you're wondering how that dual rail power supply system works, or perhaps you've been wondering how to set up a dual rail power supply on your own workbench, well, stick around, I'll answer all of those questions. So first, let's take a look at what's not actually a dual rail power supply. So on the first glance, sometimes these types of power supplies are mistaken as a dual rail supply because they have the 3 terminals on the front panel. But in fact, these are just single output power supplies. So you can see these test leads are connected on this power supply in the normal position of just how this power supply would be used. So this is the positive output, the negative output, and this is an earth ground or a chassis ground connection. And the same down here, positive output, and earth ground connection right there. So this earth ground is just tied to the chassis of the power supply, and it's a convenience tie point. I have many other types of power supplies that also bring an earth ground connection to the front panel, but again, this is just a single output power supply, same with this one down here. Now on a dual rail power supply, you would have 3 output terminals like this, and you would have the positive output, the negative output, and a circuit common, but again, that's not a circuit common on this power supply, it's just an earth ground connection. And the reason they do this is because you can reference this negative to the earth ground by just tying a jumper here, or you could actually reference the positive output to earth ground. It is possible to do that. The reason is these are floating with regard to the earth ground connection, and same down here, the positive and the negative are floating with regard to the chassis or the earth ground. So either one can be referenced over to the earth ground connection. And both of these power supplies could be tied together to create a dual rail power supply because the outputs are floating. So it is possible to tie these together and create that dual rail system. And we'll take a closer look at that on another power supply that's a little more traditional, where it has multiple outputs and you can create that dual rail power supply system. And that's typically done on bench type power supplies, but again, it could be done over here as well. Here's an open frame style power supply. It's meant to be incorporated inside a piece of equipment, but it's designed as a dual rail power supply, so let's take a closer look. So you can see the main outputs are marked right here. It says positive out, common, and negative out. And these other terminals that are marked as plus S and minus S, plus S and minus S, those are just remote voltage sensing terminals. They've already been jumpered over to the other terminals for local sensing, so we can just ignore those terminals for our purposes right now. And this circuit board right here with these 2 wires is just an overvoltage protection board. So if there's an overvoltage condition, it crowbars the output of the power supply. And this power supply is current limited, so if the output is short-circuited or crowbarred, it won't damage it. So on a dual rail power supply, you'll always have 3 voltages that you measure. One voltage will be between the positive output and the common. Another voltage is from common to negative output. And the third voltage is from positive out to negative out. So now let's think about the polarities it would measure on those voltages. So if you measure from positive out to common, positive is of course the positive polarity and common is negative. But if you measure from common to negative output, common is now positive and the negative output is of course negative. And if you measure from positive out to negative output, the polarity is of course is marked. So another way to visualize that is if I take these 2 batteries and just set them right here. So think of the power supply as these 2 batteries. So if we have the positive on this battery, think of that as this positive output. The junction between the 2 batteries is the common, and the negative side of this battery is this negative output right here. So when we're measuring from the positive output to the common, this battery isn't even there. So you would take that out of the picture like so, and it makes sense. You have positive right there, common is this negative side. So now let's assume we put this battery here and take this one out of the picture. Now the common, we can see it is on this positive terminal right here. And then the negative is over on this negative side. So that's why the common has the 2 different polarities depending on if it's referenced from this positive output or this negative output. I'll put this battery right here like so. So the other thing that becomes obvious when we look at an example with these 2 batteries, each battery is 1.5 volts. So when you have voltages in series like this, the total from this point to this point, this positive here, this negative over here, which would be on the power supply, the positive output, the negative output, this is added up. So this is 3 volts total. So on the power supply, if this were, let's say, 1.5 volts from this positive output to the common, and then again 1.5 volts from common to the negative output, you would then have 3 volts from the positive out to the negative out. Well, the reason that's always important to remember is, let's say you have a power supply. I think this one is actually rated 12 volts on each side. So you'd have 12 volts and 12 volts and then 24 across. Then the voltage starts to add up a little bit. 24 volts really isn't a shock hazard. Be cautious of it, but not something that's going to give a severe shock. But now let's say you have a power supply that has a 25 volt from here, a positive output to the common, and another 25 volts from common to negative out. Suddenly you have 50 volts across the negative, or the positive and the negative output. And 50 volts is enough to, become a shock hazard, and you want to be cautious of. And, let's say it's a 30 volt from positive out to common, and again 30 volts from common to negative out. Suddenly you have 60 volts. Well, 60 volts, you need to be cautious of that. And maybe it's a 50 volt and a 50 volt power supply. Suddenly you have 100 volts on, between the positive and the negative output. That's a shock hazard. You don't want to mess around with 100 volts. And that comes into play in audio amplifiers. It's very common to see dual rail power supplies of, let's say, 50 volts, 35 volts and 35 volts, numbers like that. And they add up very quickly across the two rails and become a definite shock hazard. So always keep that in mind when you're working on dual rail power supplies. So creating a dual rail power supply on your workbench really is quite simple. So I'll use this Keithley power supply as an example, but the main thing is the power supply that you use needs to have floating and isolated outputs. So the negative terminals cannot be tied together, and that's very, very important. Otherwise the dual rail supply idea won't work. All right, so on this Keithley power supply, you have a 0 to 30 volt output, another 0 to 30 volt output, and then a 0 to 5 volt output. So I'll use the 0 to 30 volt outputs in this example, but you actually could use a 0 to 30 volt and a 0 to 5 volt output because the rail voltages don't need to be the same. You could have one rail sitting at, say, 30 volts, and the other rail could be at 5 volts. It would work perfectly fine if the circuit needed that, but in practice, usually dual rail supplies are equal voltages just because of how the circuitry works. Okay, so to create the dual rail supply, you just need to put a jumper between one of the negative terminals and one of the positive terminals. So you could go this way or it could go this way. All right, before I do that, I'll just show you the output voltages. I'll grab my test leads right here. The numbers are jumping around right now just because the leads were floating. They were touching together like so, and it sits at 0. So if I go over here, just probe in on that terminal there and right there, you can see it's sitting right at 15 volts. And this one right here, also sitting right at 15 volts, okay? So if I take this jumper, and I'll just plug this in like so. Okay, so that puts the circuit common right in the middle. So now we have the positive rail right here, the common in the middle, and the negative rail right there. So again, if I take the voltmeter and probe in, of course there's no change going like this, sitting right at 15 volts as we can see over there. And if I go across to the other side, go to the negative right there, positive right there, and you can see it's also sitting at 15 volts. And of course over here, this was the negative side, but when you come over here, this wire is coming around, now it becomes the positive up there. That's that common point where it has either the positive or the negative polarity, depending on how it's referenced to the rail voltages. And if I go from the negative on that terminal over to the positive on this terminal, now we see it sitting at 30 volts. So rail to rail, 30 volts makes sense because each of the supplies is sitting at 15 volts. So it really is just that simple. Now I mentioned having the rail voltages at dissimilar voltages, and that's perfectly fine. It won't hurt anything, and again, if the circuit needs that, by all means, do whatever it requires to power the circuit that you're working on. But one use that is very handy to have is that if you have, let's say, a 40 volt requirement, this goes to 0 to 30 volts and 0 to 30 volts. Essentially, these power supply outputs are in series right now. So if I set this to 30 volts and this one just to 10 volts, now from this positive to this negative, you'd have 40 volts. So you can get a higher voltage than any single output can provide. And that's something that I do very often anytime I need a voltage above, one of these outputs. It's rated maximum. And you can actually tie in the third one. You can connect all three in series, set this at 30, this one at 30, and this one at 5, and you'd have a 65 volt output. So very handy to have that higher voltage ability by just stacking up the outputs, basically in series again. And of course, if you're following along, you're doing so at your own risk because, if you get up to voltages 65 volts, that's a shock hazard. So take care and be safe, and just know the safety precautions when working on voltages, that get up into those ranges, okay? So one other thing to take a look at is the current draw on a dual rail power supply, and just something to be aware of. So I'm going to grab my wires right here. These probes are connected to my DC load. So I'm just going to plug this in right here, and this one right there. Okay, so we'll put a load on this output first. I'll go ahead and turn on the DC load. It's set to 1 amp. So let's pretend for a moment that this power supply is rated 1 amp on this output and then 1 amp on this output. It actually can go to 3 amps, but let's just say 1 amp is the maximum, okay? So it's sitting very, very close to 1 amp. You see 0.996 right now. So let's just call it 1 amp. So let's suppose it's connected to a circuit that is drawing 1 amp, okay? And everything is working fine. There's no problem. It's just running at its maximum. Now, if I go over here, I'll turn that off for a second. And let's say you plug this in on the other side. Go down here like so, plug this one in right here, turn this back on, and of course we're sitting 1 amp over here. You can see 0.995 again. So let's say that this is still active, okay? Let's assume both sides are drawing 1 amp through the circuit that you're working on. Well, turn this back off again. I'm just going to connect this now across from the rail to rail, so the positive right here to the negative over here. If this is already drawing 1 amp, and let's say this is drawing 1 amp, you have nothing left for any load that you might put across rail to rail. So if I turn this back on again, now you can see it's drawing 1 amp on each of the supplies. And of course that makes sense. They're connected basically in series and the current has to flow through both of the power supplies. So if you put a load across the rail to rail, you have to factor that current into any loads that might be on the individual supplies. Again, just keep that in mind and how that current flow adds up. Because of course you can't overload the power supply. So I hope you found this introduction to dual rail power supplies helpful, and if you did, please give the video a thumbs up. And if you're enjoying the videos on this channel, don't forget to subscribe. There'll be many more videos coming up in the near future. Lots and lots of projects in the queue. You won't want to miss any of that. There'll be some more Tech Talk videos along the way as well. So tap that bell symbol to be notified when I do post a new video. So until next time, take care and goodbye for now.